in both places. And yes, we are. Let's make sure this is down so you're good. Uh, what's up, everybody? Another episode of The Good Life. We are here. It's episode 40, Stu. We made it.
We
We
made
made
it.
episode 40. Episode
Mama,
40.
we made it.
Mama, we made it. That's right. Episode 40. Super fired up to be with you guys. So excited for everyone that has tuned in over the past 40 weeks. 40 weeks. Bro, that's so we were talking about this in the pregame. I just want everybody out there that's listening, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, to understand that consistency is the key to anything great that you want to get to, right? Anything that you have in your mind, any impact you want to make, it's going to come with you being consistent, right? Consistency is the key. So make sure that whatever you're trying to do, go be consistent. Consistency leads to greatness. And so we've given you guys 40 weeks. We appreciate every single person that's given us any feedback, any thumbs up, any likes or comments, or anybody that's engaged with us on Instagram. We appreciate you so much because, again, Stu and I were talking about this. We did this for you. We're doing this for you. We're coming to add value because we know people need this. They need to engage in the conversations that will actually help them get to the life that they want. And that's what we're trying to do for you here. Hopefully you guys have been taking it in. But again, we made it 40 weeks. So kudos, Stu. Kudos.
To you as well. To you as well. And for those curious, Kabi is off on honeymoon, so we're holding down the fort. But yeah, consistency is really everything. And tonight's topic is actually mental health. And this is one of those rare nights now where we actually don't have a planned out topic,
Right.
but we came up with this in the pregame show. So that being said, if you want to contribute to a topic, jump in the pregame. That's where you get to have this conversation. That's where you get to make this a personal, customized experience for you, because we're here to add value. This is our time and energy. We take this away from our personal life, from our professional lives, to just put it all out there. And as Chris touched on consistency, I want to emphasize, with tonight's topic of mental health, the things you do to take care of your mental health is no different. There is no magic pill, unless we're talking red pill, blue pill from the Matrix, that's going to just all of a sudden just throw you into this crazy transformation of your mindset, your mental health, your way of being, your internal peace, all the above. It takes consistency. It takes figuring out what works for you and doing more of that, and what doesn't work for you, doing less of it. It's really that simple, but it's consistency over time.
That's it. That's it. And that's going to be the topic we're going to talk about tonight, because it's important. One, it's, we're doing this in the pregame. November is, what's it? it could be Men's Health Aware.
Depends on the country. Yeah.
Depends on the country you live in. So shout out to those overseas. I think it's the UK, where November is Men's Mental Health Month or something like that. But at the end of the day, there's never a wrong time or right time to talk about this topic, right? Because mental health is so incredibly important. We're seeing it come to the forefront. We're seeing more people having conversations about it. We're seeing people become more comfortable having conversations around it. People with large platforms are talking more about mental health and mental illness, just being aware that it's okay to ask for help, right? Being aware, especially for men. And again, we understand, right? Women, for all of the women that are watching, right? We understand that you're dealing with your own emotional and mental health things. But specifically tonight, obviously coming from a man's perspective, two men here, and just being able to have the conversation, because men have typically not been given this outlet, right? Growing up as a child, growing up in our society, the opposite is normally true, right? The opposite, where people are saying to the young boys, right, toughen up, right? Toughen up. Don't worry about that. Hey, don't cry. Let's go. Like be a man, right? Like that type of language and that type of kind of rhetoric that we've gotten throughout our childhood has resonated with us and carried us through adulthood and manhood. And we got to unpack some of these things, Right? We got to unpack some of these things, and we want to have that. We want to open this space up and have some more of this conversation today about, right, how are we able to unpack some of the things of our childhood, or what type of things are we dealing with that men need to really see. And Stu is going to be able to probably give you a few pointers here and there, give you a few things, and I'll be able to chime in a bit more about you know how important this topic is. But Stu, like, start off, like, what are you seeing out there? I don't know if you had a place you wanted to start, but uh
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm curious what your question is. You said,
No,
what am I seeing out there, like
yeah,
patterns, etc.?
yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, you work with men. I mean, you work with men and women. But like, what are you seeing out there on this mental health side for men specifically? What are you seeing?
Well, I think the first thing, and this may not be news to a lot of people, but the rise in anxiety, depression, like you name it, like something being off ever since the entire world hit this reset button and sent everybody inside and has everyone, whether I'm not going to get into how justifiable it is, but to some extent, there's more fear about interacting with your fellow men and women.
Mhm.
And all of this change is a lot to process, which is why personally, like I'm in line with Stephen Hawking. Like intelligence is the ability to adapt. I'm paraphrasing, but you have to be able to adapt to this type of stuff. And a lot of people were not ready for the level of change that we went through. And I think when it comes to this consistency thing, I mean, wow, did we change it up immediately? Like just all of a sudden everything was different. So right now, what I keep running into people who are like, dude, what you do right now, helping people figure out their mindset, helping them like develop a lifestyle and take care of themselves, so necessary right now.
Mhm.
And I couldn't agree with them more. I just happened to be in this, like literally got into this industry full time right before COVID came around. And yeah, it's a big deal. So
Right,
that's kind of what I'm seeing is this uptick in dis-ease of the mind.
that's right. That's right. And I think again, there's a lot of people talking about it, because I forget who I was listening to or what I heard, but I really agree that, like, right now, especially after what we just went through over the past 18, 20 months, or whatever the case is, everybody needs to talk to somebody,
Mm.
like somebody that can help process, or help you process where you were or what you just went through. Because even though the world slowed down and we all had this, glorified timeout, right? A world timeout, like, everyone handled it differently. Everyone's situation was still a little bit different, right? I always look at, from a business perspective, my business kind of took off in 2020. Most businesses didn't. So I had a different lens, a different view. I got busier than I ever got, because, again, in the financial services space, and really teaching people about money, and really having this approach of a financial foundation and those types of things, when people weren't really listening, because everything was great and the investments are going up and stock market's good and all these things are great pre-COVID, then all of a sudden it hits. Well, people need people like us. Hey, I'm getting all the text messages, all the phone calls. Hey, we need to sit down. Hey, what is that? Hey, I need to protect my money now. Like, now we're thinking about it. So I was in an industry, and our business just kind of took off. The other side of that is, there was a ton of businesses that didn't take off. They shut down. Right? And those business owners are going through a completely different experience than I was, right? And that's just from a business standpoint. I've been blessed on that side too, where no one around me has passed away from COVID, right? Thank God for that. But then there's people that I know that, like, 5 family members all passed away. You know what I mean? And they just had a completely different experience throughout that time. And I think we're going through this stage right now where we need to talk about the stuff that has happened, or that we are feeling when these things happen, so we can start to get some clarity. There's a lot of junk up here. There's a lot of junk. There's a lot of tangled wires and experiences and all types of stuff that's up there. And right now, we really need people to understand that you've got to untangle these things and pull them apart and understand it, especially to get to the good life, especially to get to the life that you want to design that right fulfills you and leads to happiness and all those things, you got to untangle this. And that's why this conversation is important.
I love that untangle just analogy, because I think for a lot of individuals who are experiencing some of this stuff, a lot of your emotional state doesn't seem linear. Like it just seems like I always use, just because I'm a physics dork, like the whole electron cloud. Like you can never see exactly where the electron is, but we know it's somewhere in this area of mess.
Yeah.
And slowing things down through breath work, can always say that a million times over and over again. I can never understate how powerful breath work is and paying attention to your breath. Like slowing down your thoughts and actually analyzing and facing those fears. Like some people are literally afraid of how they work. Like to the point where they think that they're broken, they're not right, they're not fixable. First of all, there's nothing wrong with you. There's just these core elements of who you are. And then there's this bullshit that got in there and kind of messed it up. And the thing you got to do is get past the bullshit and just retain who you are once more. I heard a really great quote the other day about there is no finding yourself. There's actually just rediscovering who you were to begin with. Wow. Before society came in and just dumped all this garbage into your head. But you kind of talked about potentially giving some tips out tonight, which I'm very happy to do. And what I want to start with is 3 different book recommendations. I don't really do that a whole lot, but I'm doing a lot more of it with my clients, and I'm getting great feedback. So there's the 3 book recommendations are, to start off with, No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. This is designed for men, but I believe that it could also be read and benefited from a female perspective. But it is designed mainly for men. This, if you have a difficult time directly stating and going after what you want in life, especially in a romantic relationship, but it's not just that. It's really any type of thing that you want, that you have a tough time expressing because maybe you don't feel like you deserve it, or maybe you feel like it's owed to you and you don't feel like addressing it directly. No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. If you're trying to understand how your brain ticks and just begin to identify when you make assumptions, or you're projecting, or you're taking things personally, or all kinds of stuff, you just want to understand the general concept of how to analyze your mind and begin to control things from a high level, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Powerful book. Have you read that one?
I have. Great book.
What'd you think? Yeah.
Read it probably 5-6 years ago, got introduced to it a long time ago, but just having those core 4 things to pay attention to. I think it just we all need framework of kind of how to move through, and just really good things from that book. I know a bunch of people that have read it as well. So
cool. I've gotten great feedback on that one from just about everybody I've given it to, especially No More Mr. Nice Guy. And this is not to make, you read that title, this is not to make somebody an asshole. This is just meant to make them more direct, where they're not just doing things and expecting something in return without ever having asked for it. The final one, and this kind of comes to like a social anxiety, like I feel like I care too much about what people think of me. I feel like I'm a people pleaser. Like if you're coming from that perspective, then I would recommend The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. This book is so powerful. It's blunt. It is raw. You can tell that by the title. It is not your everyday self-help book. It is a very fast read. A lot of people get, kind of tangled up in, man, this isn't really the most fun thing. I could be reading fiction, or I could be like going to the bar. This one will fly by. It's entertaining, and it really helps you try and figure out, giving no fucks is this really common phrase, kind of like up there with like YOLO, right? Like it's just, who cares? Like whatever. I don't care what people think about me. Bullshit. Yes, you do. It's about figuring out whose opinion has greater weight. Who are you trying to appeal to? What's important to you? Who is your tribe? Like, does some stranger on the internet get the same level of emotional weight in their opinion of you as your mom? Do both of these different extremes have the same amount of weight as the opinion you have of yourself? There's an art to it. And it's subtle, just to continue the pun. But Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you read that one by chance?
I haven't. But again, heard good things about it. Know a bunch Uh, I think it was my wife that said like, I don't think you need to read that book. Like you already kind of know.
I was kind of
Right?
thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like I think you just heard that, put that in my mind. So I just never really like picked it up and got through it. But like I can imagine that that's a value. Those are valuable like nuggets that people need to pick up. Right? Is learning whose opinion does matter, right, and whose opinion doesn't. And I was just talking about this when it comes to the fear of failure. You know what I mean? Like typically
Oh
when
yeah.
people are scared to fail, it's someone that you're scared to fail in front of, right? It's That's really it. Because if you were just on an island by yourself, you would try everything, you would do everything, you would just, because you had no judgment, you just, nobody's around, so you just do it. So on this side, when we say, "Oh, I'm scared to fail, I have a fear of failure," really, you have a fear of what somebody might say if you don't do what you're saying you're going to do, right? You have a fear of somebody judging you or thinking less than of you, or whatever the case is, right? You tell them your big vision of where you're going and you're going to make millions of dollars in 5 years. It doesn't work out that way. You're scared of someone saying like, "Oh, I thought you're going to make millions of dollars." Like that's actually what you're fearful of, is that opinion, that judgment from somebody else. It could be in your family, it could be your spouse, it could be your children, it could be, right, like, but that's normally where that stuff comes from. And you just have to learn whose opinions, right, you value, and at what weight, right, at what weight. So
Yeah. And I love the emphasis on what weight, because guys, this whole opinions valuing thing and what people think of you, it's not a yes or no. It's not like a black and white issue. It's a spectrum. Like there's feedback that can be gained from other people's opinions of you. It's just, whose opinion is it? Who is that person? Is it someone that's like higher and closer to where you're striving to go, or is it someone behind you? Because there's a really great quote out there that I'm just going to have to paraphrase right now, but you're not going to be criticizing the people that are ahead of you. It doesn't happen.
right.
They've been in your shoes. They get it. You get criticizing the people that are unhappy and are jealous and are envious or just emotionally reactive because something that you say is just, they're taking it personally. And they got to let you know. So yeah, those are three really really favorite books of mine.
Great books.
Um,
I'm pretty sure though, right? Just in case anybody jumps off right now, or like, I'm pretty sure if you go to our email link, right, bit.ly/email TGL, that's a landing page. We have all of these books. I don't know if you have all three of those. I think you have at least two of them. I don't know if you have.
I think I do have all three.
You
of
have
those.
all three? You have
Yeah.
all three of those on the landing page. You got to go to the link bit.ly/email TGL, email the good life TGL. And if you go there, it'll have a list of all the books. Myself, Stu, Kabi, we all put our list of resources or books that we recommend in our respective areas. So those three books are on there. Go there, and while you're there, sign up for the email list so that you can get on the email list, because we got some exciting stuff coming up next year. So
Amen to that. Amen to that.
yeah.
Now, what I think is really cool is, like, guys, like the books on that list are from three very different people with three very different focuses, like Chris Kabby and myself, like, and they those books kind of represent that. It's cool to see. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of value in that. I think you said something earlier that I wanted to touch base on, and that was that whole like be a man thing. We're all very much accustomed in this millennial age to be sensitive to this be a man thing. And I think rightfully so. Like it is a powerful train of thought that to some degree is telling someone to fight through the pain, to disregard their emotions. And, for me personally, there's a time and place, but it's got to be delicately used because it's powerful, man. Some of that stuff, like you tell somebody to be a man, there's an implication that they're not being a man. There's an implication that they are not like their quintessential function in society, biologically, in a family, in a relationship, whatever. Like that's heavy. You're attacking somebody's identity. You're going to use that phrase, like it better be like precisely delicate to the situation. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think that there's a place for like every train of thought and use in this world. There is no 100% out, 100% in. In order for you to become a critical thinker and evaluate your own surroundings, you have to be exposed to the different tools and train of thoughts around you. So to me, what I pull from this whole be a man thing is there's a point in time where you just have to do the thing. You just got to do it. Just do it. Nike, what's up? Tag us in this, Nike. We'll tag you.
Right. That's right. You need some endorsement money.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I want some sneakers. Steve Williams coaching. Good life, both of them. So that's to me where I feel like that whole same sentimental idea of be a man or just do it can actually come into use, because you can have all of the emotional, psychological, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, all that work completed, not 100%, but like you're getting there. But at the end of the day, like when it comes to you doing something you said you would do at a certain time because you schedule it, you got to get it done, it's on your to-do list, you have a choice in that moment, pleasure or progress. So that's where sometimes that just do it just has to come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I follow 1,000%, because at some point we do just, right, we got to get things done. And if that's the trait of the male or the man or whatever the case is, then sure, so be it. But I think we just have to dive in, because remember, we're talking about mental health and how much our language and the words that we speak over people or speak to ourselves, right, goes into our mental wellness, our mental health, right? Like the things that we were told about ourselves over time, or the things that we tell ourselves, probably has a very, very close or direct correlation to then where we are in our mindset, right? And where we are in our mental health. And so that phrase, like you said, needs to be used, right, precisely, right? Like it needs to be handled with care, because like you said, now you're attacking someone's identity, a boy's identity, right? A person that's not fully developed. You're attacking their identity by getting them to understand what you're saying, right? They have to figure that out. And this goes in many different areas. And again, this is why going back to unpack some of these things, I know we'll probably touch on, right, this inner child work. That's kind of where we started the pregame.
Yep.
It's touching on that inner child work, but going back to this place of what was spoken over you. Was your identity heard at a certain period of time? Like, and how does this shape you now for the man or woman, right, that you're becoming or that you are? I think we have to go back and really look at that, because that's just one phrase, right? The be a man, that's just one phrase, but I'm sure there's tons of others that we could probably think about, or if anyone's listening, right, can probably put in the chat as something that, again, causes some forms of trauma in varying degrees, or just situations that make you think differently about your life or differently about who you are, or question your identity a bit. Those types of things, as men are growing up or as boys are becoming men, there's a lot of those areas. There's a lot of those areas. And I think, again, this is what leads to mental illness, mental health issues when we're adults, because we never, especially as men, we never unpack it. We never talk about it. We don't normally have this safe space where we're like, man, that really messed me up. Like, how am I dealing with this? How am I processing this? Like, what are the ramifications of that experience and what happened to me, or right, what happened in that situation? That's why the conversation's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like you have the ability and to go back and just trace in your past, along your timeline, why you are the way you are.
Yeah.
Like something will really, one of the most like just disappointing things that I hear is I am the way I am, about behaviors that like negatively affect that person, like self-sabotage, or behaviors that like push other people away from that person. And now they're saying, I am who I am. I accept the fact that I self-sabotage myself and push people away, even though I don't want to be doing either one of those things. And it's like, man, like, you can change and become who you want to be, right?
Fixed mindset, growth mindset, right?
Yeah. Amen. We really have not touched on that in a long time. So welcome back, Fixed Mindset, Growth Mindset, to episode 40.
There we go.
Because this is huge. This is so applicable in everything. We're talking about mental health. Do you, I'm asking everybody out there, feel free to drop it in the chat. Do you believe that your mindset is fixed? Do you believe that you will never change? Because Chris and I can challenge that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. That is a huge, huge part. I think I might have just talked about this with some people. That's why I just popped up. But like for people that maybe don't know, like, you have fixed mindset, which basically is what Stu is saying when people say things like, that's just who I am. That's just the way I always am. That's just the way it's going to be. Right. When you're saying things that like your intelligence, who you are is set. Like because you were born this way or because you went through these like this is now the person that you have to stay. You don't believe that anything can change. You kind of avoid challenges. You push away those types of things because you just believe this is how life is going to be. That's the fixed mindset. Many people are stuck in that fixed mindset. The other side, and what I believe is needed to be an entrepreneur, you'd probably agree with this too, what's needed to live the good life, right? To get to that place, you've got to have, right, a growth mindset. Something that says where I start is not where I'll finish. What I'm doing right now is not what I can do in the future. What I'm capable of right now is not what I can be capable of in the future. That I have the ability to grow my intelligence, my capacity, right? Everything in my life can grow and become better. If that is the growth mindset, that is what's needed. And too many people have the other side of this, just life is the way it is. This is the circumstances. This is the cards I was dealt, right? All those sayings put you in a place where you think it's not in your control, where you think it's not you that has this control to grow your life. And we're here to tell you different. You got to be able to adapt that growth mindset that says you can become whatever it is you want to become, whatever is necessary, for you to kind of get to that next level of life or to live a good life, right?
That's it. Amen. And I think, I always want to just chime in because I just know that there are cynical people out there that are like, what are they talking about? That's not true. I can't change. And from my own personal experience, I just like to reflect on the fact that there was a period of my life, probably about 4 to 6 years, where I was like deeply depressed. Like we're talking like, as far as like happiness goes, like 1 or 2, maybe 3, most of the time. And now I would probably put myself between a 7 to a 10, depending on the day. So I say all that because no bullshit, you can literally change how you feel, how you think, what's around you. You can change all of this. It's just a question of, do you believe it? And if you're having a tough time believing it, there are people here in this chat right now that can help you do that. Whether it's about your financial situation, whether it's about something else, like we got this. Khabib would be right there with you on the health side. Like it's possible. And the reason why we are so passionate about what we do is because, well, I guess I can't speak for Chris, but we've been at a situation that really, really sucks. And we've seen the needle move, and we recognize that other people feel like they're in a situation that really, really sucks. So if you don't want to be in that and what you're doing isn't working, try something new. Talk to one of us. Listen to what we're doing. You could probably like figure a lot of this stuff out just by listening to this show on a weekly basis.
Totally.
So
totally. I agree. And just so you know, like you are speaking for me because it's everybody, right? We all get to low places in life. I often say this to people. I say, right, life doesn't get easier. We just get stronger or not, right? But at the end of the day, life doesn't get easier. Things as we progress in life, there's more responsibility. There's more things that you need. There's more health issues. There's more family issues. There's more relationships. It's just more, right? The more you go through, we can just have the choice of if we're going to get stronger to get through them, or we're not going to get stronger and we're going to like just let life happen to us. We have that choice. And right, given some background, I didn't always sound like this, Stu, right? Like I didn't always talk like this. I didn't always think this way. I often, you guys, again, on the show, if you're paying attention, I'm always talking about the employee mindset and the entrepreneur mindset, right? Like the difference between the two. And no knock on, again, people that have jobs, but like, you got to remember, our society gears us to be workers, right? Our society pushes us in that direction from school and parents and the whole system, right? So we have, in general, like a default mindset that most people have. I call that the employee mindset. I had it. That's the thing, right? I give the
You and me
example.
both.
Yeah, right. Like, I give the example when I was in my previous career, when I was a restaurant manager, and I had, just like everyone else, 5 days on and 2 days off, whatever combination that was. Sometimes my days were split, but like most people, right? You get 5 days on and 2 days off of your work. What did you do with your days off? You just did what you wanted to do. It was your day, right? Everybody that has that employee, like, it's hard to get you on your day off because you don't actually want to think. You don't want to do work. You don't want to do anything, right? I would spend all of my mornings, if I had mornings, and if I worked, like the evening shift, like a closing shift, all my mornings were the same. ESPN, first 6 hours of the day, right? They would play Sports Center 4 times in a row, right? I'd watch every single one of them or have it at least on the screen. Then it would roll into that lunchtime, that PTI around the horn, right? That stuff, that's all I did, right? Drank when I wanted to, right? Hung out, just did the things that I wanted to do on the weekends or on my days off because they were my days off. Did I do extra work on my days off? Absolutely not. Just running errands, sleeping, and living life the way that I wanted to, right? That mindset completely shifted when I became an entrepreneur, when I started to want to have more and become more and make more money. Really was about making more money, adding more value, doing those things. An old mentor of mine used to tell me, Chris, your money only grows to the degree that you do as a person. So whatever your identity is, meaning, and this is a test for you guys out there, if you take the best grossing year you've had financially, the best grossing year that you've had, well, that's your identity. That's your financial identity. If that best grossing year was $150,000 a year, it's the most you ever made in a year, then that's your financial identity. That's who you think you are. You won't ever out earn your identity. Even if you did go and make 200,000, you'd find a way to spend it all the way back down and get yourself back to a place where you're about at 150. It's just the way it works, right? And so in order to then say, I want to make more money, I want to make 500 grand a year, if we're just talking financials, right? I just want to make 500 grand a year. Well, you have to raise your identity so you believe you're worth that amount.
Yeah.
If you believe you're worth that amount, then it'll start coming to you. And that forces you to have a growth mindset. That forces you to switch your mindset to say, okay, is this all that I'm worth? Or can I be worth this? And if you don't believe you can be worth this, then you won't get it. You won't be able to make it happen. But when I started to get this growth mindset, I started to read and personally develop and get around the right people and change the way I was thinking about life. Paradigm shifts here and there, information that I had to unlearn once I got presented new information, right? Once I got presented, and this is a big thing for people, they don't necessarily, right, unlearn old information once they get presented with new information that conflicts. Most people just kind of stay in the middle. It's like, oh, so-and-so is telling me something that really doesn't match up with what I thought I knew. You either have the way to reject it automatically and be like, no, I believe this. Or you can be open enough to be like, let me figure out if that is right. And then switch the course or change that paradigm to head towards the new information that we got. That's growth mindset. That's how you grow. That's how you grow into the man or woman that you're called to be. That's how it works, right? But you have to do this work to make sure that you're now putting in new information, learning new things, changing your environment, having better conversations. If you don't like the way something is in your life, change it. That's it. Just change it. And it takes that mindset to be able to do so. But I really believe you need that growth mindset in order to get to the good life. But most importantly, let's pull it all the way back in to help in your mental health, right? Mm-hmm. When you get to these depressive, anxious states and those things, and you think that that's you and that's where you're stuck, you need to have that hope and that understanding that, like, no, this isn't where I'll stay. no, I can change this. And you can pull yourself out with the help of other people, right?
Amen. There's two things that just really spoke to me as you were saying that. Number one, the biggest difference between what I would consider to be a very happy, free lifestyle that I have now and what I had back when I was younger, which I would 100% say was depressed. Um, when I'm having a bad day, do I believe that I can change it? That's it. Sometimes, even today, like sometimes you just chalk it up like, you know what, today was a bad day, but I know I can do different things tomorrow. And it's literally like, it's when you get to this point that you feel like you can change your mental state because you know that exercise, sunlight, water, like journaling, meditation, like whatever combination it is for you, because you've done the trial and error. When you know that you can fix your bad day, you just know it's up to you. You can either sit there and wallow in it and kind of just feel like a dumbass. It's okay. It is what it is. I felt that way. But when you know that you can do something about it, it's like, hey, you know what? I know I'm kind of being a dumbass right now. I guess I just want to enjoy like a lazy hungover Sunday. It's not going to be the best, but you know what? I take care of myself 364 out of the year. Today, screw it. I know it's a bad day, whatever. I'm going to own it. Like I'm not going to say that's the ideal thing to do, but when you recognize that you have the control, it's just whether or not you decide that you want to take care of yourself today. Do you want to further yourself along or do you want to sit in it? It's up to you to decide that. Nobody else can tell you what you want to do when you're having a bad day. But if you believe through trial and error and you identify and you track what takes me from like a 5 or 6 of a kind of day, happiness wise, what takes me to like a 7 or an 8, like pay attention to that and just do more of that and do less of whatever brings you down. Like that's when you're all of a sudden like, wow, I'm in a growth mindset. I can literally change how I'm feeling, my emotional state by doing some things or being honest with myself or avoiding some things or some people or some environments that don't suit me. So yeah, absolutely, man.
You make it sound so simple, man. You make it sound so simple. Yeah, it's all we got to do. But I know there's people out there, and the reason I say that, right, and Jess, is because I know there's people out there saying like, yeah, it's easy for you or something like that, right? Because again, we get the cynicism a lot because the messages that we're talking about and the things that we're telling people is empowering them to say, it's not your situation, it's not your circumstance, it's not right any of the people around you or your job or your boss. It's none of those things. It's you.
Mm-hmm.
It's you, and it's your thoughts. That's it. It's you and your thoughts, right?
And you're just knocking on the door of that word ownership that we always throw around. Mm-hmm. You can either blame everything around you, or you can realize everything around you is what it is. What are you going to do about it? And I throw out that word dumbass, and I want to make very clear what I mean with this. It is an honor. It is after years of work and me figuring out through trial and error. By the way, it doesn't have to take years. I was just stubborn and wanted to do it on my own. It is like a privilege for me to be able to be like, Stu, you're being kind of a dumbass right now. You're having a bad day. You literally know what you could do to feel better. You could go to the gym. You could go paddleboard. You could bike. You could call somebody and connect with them. You could do any number of things, but you're sitting here choosing not to. And it's like, you know what, man? Stu talking to Stu, you're being a dumbass right now. You know what you could do. And it's that point when you realize that you're in control. And how I got there was trial and error. That's all it is. Life is really that simple, like trial and error. So to break it down, like when it comes to mental health, I would say it's just like Khabib would always say, it's tied to so many other components of your life, like mind, body, spirit, just so many different things. Like how are you getting your movement? Are you hydrating? Are you getting sunshine? Are you getting enough of a social experience? And for a lot of my clients, they're actually very much afraid to go out there and socialize. And it's like, look, your brain is visualizing all these things that could go wrong. What if you just try and what if you like say, you know what, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go out there for at least 30 minutes, and I'm going to just visualize what could go right. And I'm going to do the things until I keep getting closer and closer to it going right. And that's trial and error. Like, you want to change the situation, you have to do trial and error. I could say that a million times.
It's 1,000% true. I think all of it stems from doing, right? You can only do trial and error by doing something, right? Too often we're sitting in our own mind or sitting in that analysis paralysis. Again, talk about what we're talking about. You got to untangle this stuff. Imagine, again, we really didn't touch on inner child work, right? Like, we can still go there.
Oh yeah, I think good call.
Touch on some of that. But like, imagine that you have all these things tangled up, all these traumas, all these thoughts, all these things that you've been dealing with that you haven't really worked through or haven't really gotten through. And then you add on this layer of now trying to start a business or, right, get clients or, right, any of these types of things. And you have so many things up there. And then you just add more, the analysis paralysis, then the fears come out, the inaction, right? The insecurities, the negative self-talk, it all just snowballs on top of it because we haven't untangled these things. We haven't unwired and said, okay, where are these thoughts coming from? So that then we can put ourselves in motion. Some people are better than others, right? Just being able to put themselves in action and put themselves in motion, right? And just say, I'm going to go figure this out. I'm going to try this. Right, again, probably already have that growth mindset if you're doing that, most likely, right? But either way, that is something that, people have to do. They have to try things. And the only way you try to do things is by doing them. You have to go out and actively participate in figuring it out. And if you're sitting in your head a bunch and your head is cluttered with a bunch of things from the past, it makes it really, really difficult to be able to do that. And we know that. That's why we're trying to give you these tools to unlock and just say, listen, first and foremost, you probably got to talk to somebody. It would make sense to talk to a coach. Call Stu, hit Stu up, right? Hit me up, hit Kabia up, right? Because you need someone to talk to. We're making ourselves available to have conversation about these types of things because we know people need this type of help, right? But then once you start unpacking, uncovering, like, you got to go do something. Go do some action. All the stuff that Stu is telling you right now, whether we're talking about starting a business or in business, right, getting clients or whatever the case is, or whether it's just like he said, picking up a book or knowing that when you're sad or when you're all you need to do is get up and go on a walk or do some breathing exercise, right? Like, it's just the doing part. It's taking that first step to go do the thing. And it gets better. But we're stuck in this inaction, this, right, analysis paralysis thing, and it's hurting a lot of people. So you got to go do.
For sure. I think, when it comes to a lot of these things that you go do, like, going to the gym, getting sunlight, whatever, eating healthy, please, for the love of God, thank you, Kabi, for really showing me just how powerful it is. We all talk about it, but that's big. But all these things that you can do, we're kind of talking about ways to alleviate how you're feeling. There's another level that is a bit more abstract that was introduced to me probably about a year ago that my ego took a pretty big hit on this one because I was always, it's mindset only. And that is, you go from just doing all these things to visualizing who you want to be. And then once you kind of visualize like who you want to be and like, in what role and what relationship and how are they going to take care of themselves, you begin to ask yourself, what kind of decisions would they make right now? How would they talk to themselves right now? What would they do with their time? That's when it's like a different way of looking at it. Like, you can definitely make a lot of progress by just doing things. But it's when you can take another approach at it by like, okay, me in 3 years, once I'm this entrepreneur, once whatever, like, what would they do? For me, a lot of times with my clients, they'll talk about a celebrity and they love that mindset. I'm like, okay, well, have you ever just stopped and been like, what would Hero do from the Heat? What would LeBron do? Kobe? Doesn't have to be basketball. Like, it's like that. Those types of things are getting into like the being realm. Yeah. And then you want to any comments on that?
Well, just real quick, it always pops up. There's a quote in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, where he says, "Find a millionaire, do as he does, and you will have what he has." And I always try to say it's not literal. I don't take that quote as literal. Like, find someone that's a millionaire and do his business, and you'll have it. It's really more about find someone that's successful, do what they do mentally, right? Like, understand how they think about things, and you'll get similar outcomes, right? And so when you bring up things like, what would that person do? If it's someone you look up to or someone that's further ahead in your career, your industry, or whatever it is, what would they do? How would they think about it? And do you know the difference, the differences, right? And I think that quote always resonates with me of, just find someone to model. Find someone to model their thinking. If they have what you want, or right, you admire them for some reason, then model that. Right? Model it. So that was the only point.
Oh, dude, that was a great point. Absolutely. I mean, I love that quote. Like, find a millionaire, do as they do. Like, it's so simple. You actually reminded me of the phrase, "Do as I say do, not as I actually do," or whatever it is that a lot of parents or role models put out there. And if you really break that down, like those individuals that are saying that are not necessarily proud of their behaviors.
That's right.
They know what's better. They just don't do it. Why is that? And it's a very interesting thing. And as a parent, role model, coach, mentor, whatever, you are being emulated. You are like, that is like, it doesn't really matter what you're saying. It's the way you exist that someone who looks up to you is going after.
I try to teach this to all parents, dude. I try to teach this to all parents. And it's a harder conversation to have sometimes. I look at it sometimes just in a money sense. Sometimes it's like the "do as I say, not as I do" quote, right? And then all of a sudden in your money, right, you are telling them certain things that they should be doing with their money. Make sure you save, make sure this, right? Parents have the good intention of pointing their kids in the right direction, but they're not listening to what you're saying. They're watching what you're doing. They're watching your spending habits. They're watching you, right, rob Peter to pay Paul, or you know what I mean? That saying, right, where you're putting things on credit cards or you're doing this. I often would say, at some point in time when you're talking to your kids about money and you're telling them, hey, I don't have this, right? We can't afford that. No, you can't get that. No, this. And then all of a sudden for Christmas or the holidays or their birthday, they get these lavish, all these gifts, all these things. What does that show them? Right? You've been telling them one thing that you don't have it, but then all of a sudden they have days or times where they get a lot of it. That is such a disconnect for watching what they're doing and how they're using that money. And that's what our kids are watching. They're watching what you're doing with your money. They're not listening to what you're telling them to do. They pick up your habits. And that's just in a money sense. This happens in all other senses too, right? But I really hone in on that one when it comes to the financial piece.
Amen, dude. And I think a lot of times in that specific example of like, showering your kids with presents, as a parent, are you thinking about how that's going to affect your kids? I mean, you're basically training them to be materialistic and gift oriented. Now, gift giving is one of the love languages. It's powerful. It's one of them. But if it's no, 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 except for this day, you get everything. It's like, man, what could you guys have been doing with that money the whole time? You could have been like totally recultivating how they think about this. And now it's almost like save, 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 spend it all.
That's right.
By the way, some people want you to do that for Christmas. It's part of their game. Don't fall for it unless you really got, I don't know. I'm not going to go in.
Don't fall for it, guys. Nope. I'll come in and tell you, don't fall for it this holiday season or any other one, right? The consumers come out and the people that are selling product know that it's time for consumers to come out. So they're going to go after your pockets. You got to be smarter with your money, right? You really do, especially this year, right? There's gifts if we want to touch on this for a second, gifts are going to be late because shipping's backed up, right? The supply chain is backed up. The things are going to fly off store shelves quicker and they're not going to be able to get replenished because we're having supply chain issues. You're going to feel a certain type of way because you're used to spending and getting people gifts and things like that, that you might go and spend it on things that are just convenient now that you can get in. But understand, right? It's not as much of a necessity as you think, right? Giving somebody a gift or showering them in gifts is not as much of a necessity as you think. And this is the year, if there's ever a year to pay attention to your money and what you're doing with it, it's this year, especially this holiday season. So that's just my 2 cents on that, guys.
Yeah, well, I think it's huge. I mean, I used to date a girl, and their parents always said, what did they say? They said, we're going to give you everything we didn't have as kids. Very, like a very materialistic way of going about it. Now, they meant so much love with that. But the counter, which is actually floating around on Instagram somewhere, is rather than give your kids everything you didn't have, teach your kids everything you didn't know.
That's right.
So that way they have a head start.
That's right.
If you just splurge and spoil them, and this is coming from an only child.
Me too.
I always forget that, man. That's why we get along so well. It's a different life.
It is.
So yeah, I mean, you can either set your kids up to have a head start knowledge-wise, critical thinking-wise, problem-solving, like whatever. You can be teaching them lessons, or you can be teaching them that gifts and material things are key. And by the way, if you're doing that, my personal opinion, sounds like Chris's professional opinion, you're literally setting themselves up. You're setting your kids up to just prioritize spending money on shit they don't need.
That's right.
Minimalism is awesome. And every once in a while, sure, have a good time. But there's so much more to life than all this. And I think a big part of this whole, like, to tie this back to mental health, if your top priority is money, just please check in with your mental health. How are you? Are you enjoying life? Like, or do you feel at peace? Are you surrounded by people that make you feel comfortable for who you are? Or are you having to show up and be somebody that you're not? Not everybody that's wealthy prioritizes money. In fact, I'd argue that the people that are the wealthiest actually don't prioritize money. They prioritize time.
Bingo. It's a huge thing, Stu. People don't get it. That, like, once you figure out how to add value, what you spend time doing, like what your happiness is, like once you figure out some of those things, money is an energy, right? It flows to you because of what's flowing out of you. That's what happens, right? So the way to achieve a ton of wealth is to have good things flowing out of you, to add value, to have ideas, to be helping people. Like, that stuff flows out of you. The riches come, the financial success comes. When you're just focused on the money, it doesn't come the way you want it to. It just doesn't. People got to know that. I'll piggyback really quick because I saw that quote too. I think we put that out on our business page, right? Teach your kids. Don't give your kids all the things you never had. Instead, teach them what you never knew. This dives into the mental health conversation too. How much do you understand about your own trauma, about your own, right, mental health? And how much of that are you sharing with your children? How much of that are you equipping them with? Think of that. We're in our 30s and we're just figuring this stuff out, that, like, this is important for us to pay attention to. Imagine if you give that to your 5-year-old, to your 7-year-old, to your 9-year-old, to be like, hey, your mental wellness is important. Your mental well-being is important. Here's how you take care of it, right? Here's how to get over some of the frustration. Don't compare yourself, right? Comparison is, right, the thief of joy. All these things that now we figured out by going through this, by the trial and error that we had to go through. Shouldn't you be equipping your children with that stuff? Or would you rather just buy them some Jordans and make sure that they can get their college paid for and make sure that they have a house to start? Like, that's not all of it. It's this emotional side, this EQ, this mental side that we're all stepping into, that we got to pass down. They got to understand. I do, right? Something that I'm proud of. I pat myself on the back. Like, now that I'm homeschooling my daughter, at the beginning of the day, we start with affirmations. I love this, man.
Yeah, you talked about this before. I love it.
Yeah, it's huge because these are the things that we didn't understand until we got older, till we had to reprogram ourselves. That's what we started doing when we got into this affirmation side. It's like, man, my thoughts aren't helping me get to where I want to be. So let me reprogram my thoughts. Well, what if we just started our children out with the right thoughts? There's an idea, right? Just start them off with the right stuff. Don't wait until they're 18 to tell them, hey, you read this book. You should probably start. No. My daughter's 4. Here, we're going to read these affirmations. She doesn't know half the stuff she's saying. She's just excited about saying it. And she gives herself a high five, and I give her a high five. And we're solidifying some of those things that she will be able to come back to because they're already in a part of her programming system. That's what we need to do for our children. That's the stuff. And again, if you're not doing it as a parent, don't just tell them. Show them how to do it. Do it with them. Help them understand that this is the stuff that they'll need to be successful in life. Because we're all going through it, right? Life's got these ups and downs. Our ability to manage that, get through those things, it's incredibly important, way more important than the material things that you're thinking about buying your children. So that's all I got.
Yeah, you just dropped some bombs, dude. So, where I don't know how to follow that up. I guess, when I think overall, as we get to the end of our show here, when it comes to mental health, I got asked a question the other day on IG, like, I feel like I've been through a lot of emotional trauma. I don't know how to heal. Where do I start? When it comes to mental health, your unique situation is vastly different. There's 7 billion combinations plus on this planet of different mental health. Like, everybody is different. We can summarize it and say 1 to 10, how happy is everybody? They can rate it, but every one of those situations has different things going on. I would say overall, if you want to try and start healing, you've got to try different things that people who you feel, not just what they say, but you feel when you're in their presence or when you're watching them, that they're like a happier, healthy person. Now, a lot of people can project that to protect and cover and conceal, but you can't fake that for so long. You pick up on people's vibes. And you mentioned, well, before I even go there, like, listen to those people and try the things that they're doing. Like I said, meditation, movement, sunlight, water, like really decent water, proper nutrition, analyzing the way you talk to yourself, not just the word choice, not just that, but the tone. Like, what is the emotional charge of how you talk to yourself? Do you notice that some people will actually speak to you very encouragingly, but you don't? You're actually discouraging yourself? Keep in on that. Pause, rewind, rewrite the words, change the tone of that inner talk. And then at a deeper level, begin to figure out what inner child stuff is. Begin to look into the different types of trauma bonds and relationships. Begin to understand the concept of shadow work, basically facing your demons, the stuff that you bullshit around and avoid and don't want to go into. Those are some of the things that have worked for me. I know they've worked for a lot of other people. And man, there was something else that you said in there that I really want to touch on. I'll let you wrap up with some comments, and hopefully I bring it back.
Yeah, no, I think we've touched on a bunch of things, and for everyone listening, again, we just want you to understand how important this conversation is around your mental health, right? On what it is that you can do to make sure that you're pushing yourself or getting yourself to the mental space that you need to be in order to achieve the things you want to achieve. All right, we're talking to people again, the reason why you might be watching this show is because you want to get to a better life. There's a better version of your life or yourself that you want to get to, but something's holding you back. There's some things you're not necessarily doing or feeling to help you get there. So we're trying to give you some of these tools and tips and things to help you unpack and unwork a lot of this stuff. Yes, you're going to need probably some coaching, right? Some help. It's okay to need it, right? But we also say that there's some things you can be doing right now, every single day. Like like Stu said, the trial and error things, the picking up and just starting somewhere where, you know, you maybe saw somebody that is doing this or is in that lane of yours that you're like, man, I can do that. I can work on myself in that way, and just start going that direction. Um, but overall, and I'll let you wrap this thing up, Stu, but like overall in general, like just understand how incredibly important this conversation is for everyone, specifically for men, because we don't normally get this outlet to really be able to work through things. Like Stu said, some of those terms he said, right, whether it's shadow work or right, inner child work, any of those if you're not sure about what those things are, hit up Stu, hit up myself, right? Like, let's talk about it. Google it for all you, right? For all I care, really. Like, if you don't want to hit somebody up, but figure out what these things are, because these are tools that are going to help you clear this thing up. And that's what we want to give you. So wrap it up, Stu.
I think just the two punchlines I want to end with would be acceptance is key. Acceptance of your situation, acceptance of who you are. If you want to make any type of long-term fundamental changes, you have to get yourself to a place, and it's possible to get there coming from somebody that was not at that place before. You have to be able to accept who you are with all of the pros and cons that you've come up with. Some things I promise you serve you well, even if you label them as a con. You just got to look for it. So acceptance is the key. And secondly, anything that you feel ashamed to talk to somebody about, that's shadow work. Dive into that. Put the spotlight on it. Share it. Because as Brene Brown alludes to, and I believe she says, is shame cannot grow in the light. In the darkness, it thrives. Anything you're ashamed of, whether it's like your parental figures, coach, teacher, like it doesn't matter. Like, or if it's just internal, talk about it. Because you talk about it, you explore it, it helps you accept it and realize that other people probably relate to it. You're not alone. Like shame really does thrive in the dark and when you're on your own on the little island. So man, this has been a great chat, Chris.
Yes.
We came up with this organically today. This is the topic that I am extremely passionate about. I know at least in the UK, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Apparently here it's in June, but guys, just, get help. It's out there.
That's it. And we're here to be able to help. Again, for everybody that's watching us right here on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, feel free to look at that banner down below, bit.ly/email TGL. We'll put it up also in Instagram, bit.ly/email TGL. Jump on our landing page. Go ahead and drop your email on there so we can continue to get you some good information. Look at those books that Stu had mentioned earlier in today's show. There's also some other resources from myself and Kabi on there. Again, that's a resource for all of you to go in and really stay connected to us, because we want to stay connected with you. Again, this is episode 40. This is week 40, guys. Like, I feel like huge feat. There's only 52 weeks in the year. So after another 12, we've been doing this for a year, and super proud of ourselves. Stu Kabi, who's again out off the grid with his now bride, enjoying life. Wish we could have had him here for this one, but he should be back here next week, unless he wants to take extended time on the grid. Listen, he designs the life that he wants, right? He's designing the life that he wants. So if he wants to stay off the grid a little bit longer, by all means, he can make it happen. But we're here for you guys. We want to support you. We want to make sure that you get everything you need to get yourself to the life that you want to design. So until next week, guys, we'll see you next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you want to catch us on the pregame, we're only on Instagram at 4 p.m. Pacific, which is 7 p.m. Eastern. But tap in with us, ask some questions, engage. We want to be able to help you get to that good life. All right. So until next week, guys, take care.
Take care, guys.